It's Saturday in America. I'm Kayleigh McEnany. Today, exclusive new details on the federal probe against a Somali fraud network in Minnesota, straight from Small Business Administrator Kelly Loeffler, who's leading the effort. Dr. Drew, as the left pounces on President Trump over age. But we have new reporting on what President Trump does during his free time that totally refutes the media narrative. Buck Sexton is here, but where in the world is Clay Travis? I think I know. And moments from now, U.S. Marshal Service Director Gadi Saralta, who's leading the federal law enforcement surge in D.C. and Memphis. And with that, we bring you this Fox News alert. 3 Afghan nationals brought in under the Biden administration's Operation Allies Welcome, all connected to terrorism, either directly tied to a terror network or with plans to commit individual acts of terror themselves. 3 in 1 week. First, a 29-year-old Afghan national who migrated through Operation Allies Welcome committed a heinous attack against 2 National Guardsmen in D.C., Sarah Beckstrom, who lost her life, and Andrew Wolf, who is still fighting for his. Then we broke this news for you on Saturday. Mohammed Dawood Al-Okazai is charged at the state level with making a terroristic threat. According to DHS, listen to this. He came to the United States as part of Operation Allies Welcome, a second Afghan national with the same terroristic intent. But it did not end there. On Wednesday, this man on your screen, John Shah Safi, was arrested in Waynesboro, Virginia, for providing material support to ISIS-K. According to DHS, quote, he also provided weapons to his father, who is a commander of a militia group in Afghanistan. Well, guess how he got into the country? Operation Allies Welcome. That is 3 cases, 3 failures of the Biden-era program in just 1 week. Now, let's be clear. We have many great Afghan allies, interpreters who stood bravely alongside American forces. We thank them. We welcome them. But it's simply impossible to know how many unvetted threats remain among the 190,000 Afghan nationals brought into our country during the Biden era. We all remember this viral image of Afghans crowded on U.S. military C-17s during the 2021 evacuation of Afghanistan. And now we are left with this troubling trend. Take a look at this. ICE arresting an Afghan national with disturbing criminal histories. Each of these individuals, one with a conviction for lewd acts with a minor under 16, another convicted for a hit and run, and yet another with kidnapping convictions and rape allegations. These are just a few of several stories. But not to worry, Mayorkas assured us that everyone was vetted.
The federal government has been focused on the screening and vetting of individuals evacuated from Afghanistan. We have a robust screening and vetting process, and one thing that is remarkable is not only are we utilizing the architecture, the system that we have here in the United States, but we actually have built a system, so another layer in the transit third countries to achieve a multi-layered process.
All right. Well, with that, let's bring in former acting DHS Secretary Chad Wolf. Chad, you held the job before Mayorkas. This multi-tiered vetting system appears not to have worked. There are, as I noted, heroic Afghans who helped U.S. forces, but 3 in 1 week. How widespread is this?
Well, unfortunately, I believe it is widespread. And we knew at the time when they announced this Operation Welcome Allies, and they talked about how they were going to, bring in over 150,000 of these Afghan nationals. I think those of us that had served said there's no way that you can vet them in the time that they were talking about. A proper vetting takes months to understand who is coming into the United States, and they did this in a matter of weeks. And so we knew that. But I would take a step back, Kayleigh. The question is, do you need 150,000 Afghan nationals to come into the United States to begin with? And the answer is absolutely no. And unfortunately, what we saw is the Biden administration, time after time, abused humanitarian parole, which is how they brought all these individuals into the country. The millions of folks coming across the southern border were given humanitarian parole. That is not how a sovereign nation should actually administer its immigration system.
No doubt about that. And I want to dive into one of the examples, and it's the individual who shot those 2 National Guardsmen in D.C. He was working with the CIA. Here's how he was vetted. We'll put up those mechanisms. It was a special CIA program, 0 Unit. You can see there he went through biometric screening, biographic checks, intelligence community checks, in-person interviews. So he goes through this vetting. Comes to the United States, Chad, long after this vetting. And here's what happens. This is CBS. This is new reporting that we saw this week. Look at this. There was a caseworker who wrote an email about this man. He seems to have been a ticking time bomb. In another email sent January 31st, 2024, the caseworker said R-N.Y had not been functional as a person, as a father, as a provider since March of last year, 2023. He spends most of his time for weeks on end in darkened bedrooms, not speaking to anyone, not even his wife and older kids. The email also describes manic episodes for 1 or 2 weeks at a time when he will take off in the family car, interim periods where he tries to make amends. And the email goes on. I bring this up because he's vetted in Afghanistan. He comes to the United States, and going back to 2023, we have evidence that he was a ticking time bomb. How do you keep up with these individuals after they get into the interior of the country?
Well, it's very difficult, and frankly, you don't, which is why a lot of red flags should have been thrown up when the Biden administration decided to bring in over 150,000 of these individuals. You cannot keep track of them all. You can't monitor them all. It's hard. We should continuously vet them all, but it's very, very difficult. That's why humanitarian parole, it should not be abused in the way in which the Biden administration abused it. And we said at the time, and unfortunately it's coming to light now, is the things that the Biden team did is going to have repercussions for years and decades later. And unfortunately, we're seeing that today in this, recently with all of these different cases. But it's very difficult. Now, let me just say one thing on the vetting front. Like, it's one thing to vet individuals and have them operate in Afghanistan. That's their home country. Very, very different. Bringing them here, it's very difficult to fully vet them and understand their alliances and understand their allegiances and how they operate in a foreign country like the United States. So just because they helped in Afghan doesn't mean that they're going to be functioning citizens or functioning, I'd say, individuals here in the United States. Very, very difficult. And just to simply do that, and to be clear, the Biden team only did that because of the chaotic withdrawal from Kabul, and they had no other choice. They had no plans in place. And unfortunately, the American people are paying the price.
Chad, President Trump had a very simple solution. So how do we fix this? He wants to take a pause on immigration from third world countries. It caused Democrats to go into a breathless panic. Let's watch that panic.
When he says things like third world countries, what is he really saying? I think what he's saying is he doesn't want brown people in our country.
These attacks on whether it's elected leaders or other folks in this country, or direct attacks on people that are either immigrants or refugees or have sought asylum in a process that we have created for our country, is unbecoming of the President of the United States.
You know, Chad, we just have a few moments here, but correct me if I'm wrong. The reason third world countries are the focus is because our vetting relies on the host country having appropriate vetting mechanisms in place. Our information is only good as what we receive from these countries.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's hard to get any information from these countries of concern because sometimes we don't have diplomatic relations, and if we do, they don't keep the same records. But let me say this. I am tired of left-wing politicians continuing to talk about what we should be doing for illegal immigrants or others outside of this country. What they should be focused on is what should we be doing for the American people? How do we keep the American people safe? And one American that dies at the hands of anyone that we bring into this country is one too many. So the president's right to put a pause, to take a relook, continuously vet, and see what improvements need to be made here.
Seems reasonable to me. Maybe someone will tell Mark Kelly. Thank you so much, Chad Wolf.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.